Chapter 50, Coming Clean. Matt! The voice on the phone answered on the first ring. How's it all going on your end? Oh, and good call on the evacuations and lockdown. I just don't want more people getting hurt. Matt looked at the pile of paperwork on his desk, the requests for statements and comments that kept coming in from the media, the documents that were quickly making it evident that despite his position and the shiny plaque reading Mayor Hullum on his door, he wasn't going to have much of a say in how this was going to be handled. The worry in his voice was clear. I don't know what else to do. Look, I don't ask for much. You usually don't have to. But we can't afford this. And you'll understand that neither of us can afford to be getting involved in this. But we can't stop it, so we have to roll with it. The voice on the phone said sternly, reminding them both of the long game. We've already given them a way in. Best we can do now is send in a cleanup crew when it's over, and hope they don't let the city fall into the wrong hands. Matt hummed in contemplation. You think they can do it? I wouldn't have hired them if I didn't. The drive back to the new headquarters was almost relaxing until they reached the city. The closer they got to downtown and the FIB building, the more tense the feeling on the ground became. It wouldn't have been obvious to civilians, those who weren't looking for it, but the police presence was at least tripled, and they'd even spotted some vehicles that were likely Merryweather, a private military-level security company. It set Ryan's nerves on edge and made his trigger finger itch. The sun was just starting to dip below the horizon as they approached the corner of Integrity Way and Alta Street, throwing the city into silhouettes framed by vivid, fiery hues. Jeff hadn't been kidding when he said the new headquarters were close. They would be able to see the FIB building from the penthouse on the southeast side. In the private underground parking garage, a weenie EC in bright metallic pink was parked in one corner, but other than that, it was empty. Mika must already be here, Jeff noted. Of course it was Mika's. Ryan couldn't help but smile at how fitting the undoubtedly modified, compact convertible was as he noticed the bumper sticker reading Kawaii. He couldn't help but think Caden would love it as well. They left the new haul of weapons in the van. They'd already checked and readied them, so they could leave them until they were needed. A private lift took them from the parking garage directly to the penthouse floor lobby. Inside, Mika and Andy had already begun stocking the place with supplies, including an impressive arsenal of weapons to add to their freshly acquired cache. Ryan was happy to see his RPG on the kitchen counter, and on the ground below it, Michael's minigun. Bullpup rifles littered the living room, and against one wall were jerry cans and funnels, presumably full of fuel to fill the bottles lined up next to them to make Molotov cocktails. It was both terrifying and exhilarating to think about, but they certainly weren't pulling any punches. When shit kicks off, we're gonna shift it to the garage, that way you can restock from there, Mika explained. Andy and I will be overseeing things from here, so you'll have backup if you need it. Lindsay, Trevor, and Matt are making the rounds to the outposts and making sure Steffi's crew, home base, knows what's up, but they'll be back here later. We'll be able to arm an army with all that, Gavin noted, eyes widening at the sight of the duffel bags full of miscellaneous ammunition. Andy smirked. That's the plan. Make yourselves at home, Mika gestured to the rest of the penthouse. Oh, but B-Team are set up in the room at the end of the hall, and there are only 4 bedrooms, so a few of you will have to get cozy. God damn it, Jeremy muttered. It was really the story of his life. Gavin turned, grinning to Michael. Wanna bunk with me, boy? Gavin, please. Michael rolled his eyes. What would my wife say? Gavin looked genuinely a little heartbroken. I'll share with you, Gavin, Jeremy offered. Aw, you would have been my next choice, Lil J. I'll take the couch, Ryan quickly claimed. Despite having shared a room with others for days on end, he felt like the space might do him good, and the oddly familiar vibe of the penthouse kept reminding him of how dangerous are you to them? Events he'd rather not remember. At any rate, there was a good chance he'd get a better night's sleep, even with all the activity in the penthouse, rather than sharing with Jeff or Jack. Jeff pulled a face like he was about to argue, but he thought better of it. You and me, buddy, Jeff said to Jack. Jack shook his head. Works for me. Jeff smirked. It better. You don't get much of a choice. Everyone started making their way towards their nominated sleeping quarters. Seeing as I've sacrificed my bed for the couch, it's really only fair that I get the first shower, Ryan stated, slipping into the bathroom and kicking the door behind him before the others could argue. Through the door, Ryan heard Jeremy immediately yell, "Dibs second!" and a chorus of voices started arguing. Jeff had snuck off while the others argued over the shower. He found a quiet place in the upper floor of the penthouse in a small study room and dialed a number from memory. He'd been putting off this call for too long. "How'd it go?" the voice on the other end answered. "Not entirely according to plan, but all things considered, pretty well." "Good to hear." The conversation was long and detailed, covering all aspects of what they had been planning and what was to come. "If we pull this off, it's a huge deal." Jeff sighed. "I know, but—" Something in his voice gave it away. "You haven't told the crew about all this, have you?" "They're definitely suspicious, but no." Jeff felt the guilt of not telling them, already eating at his insides. "I don't think they know." "Good. Probably best you keep it that way. I can't imagine they'd react well to finding out now." "I can't keep them in the dark like this." "Yes, you can," the other insisted. "Why does it matter? It's been like this for years. They trust you, and we need them to do this. We can't risk them scattering now." "Exactly. They trust me. This has never come up as such a big deal before. This doesn't even have to be their fight. They deserve to know that and decide for themselves." "Jeff, think about the bigger picture here. After all this is said and done, how much easier things will be for us." Jeff paused, considering his words carefully. "I don't think you and I have the same bigger picture in mind anymore." "I know how much they mean to you. I really don't think you do. Just think about it, okay, Jeff? Don't throw all this away." "Well, that's not really for me to decide anymore." Jeff hung up. The monotonous beep of the dial tone signaled that the conversation had ended, but Jeff's shaking hand indicated it was far from over. He had to tell them. Ryan stepped out of the shower onto the plush, navy blue bath mat. Mindful of the still healing wound on the back of his neck, he roughly toweled off his now nearly shoulder-length hair before wrapping the towel around his waist. It was good to have a reliable stream of hot water again. The camp's facilities had been somewhat less than ideal. He wiped the condensation from the mirror with the heel of his hand and took a good look at his face for the first time in weeks. He was surprised to see he didn't look like complete shit. A shave had helped. His hair was still long and unruly, faded brownish black except for a good inch or so of dark, ashy blonde regrowth. He had put off cutting it to cover the brand, but he remembered it being grabbed by one of the Vagos back in the projects. It could have gotten him killed. The brand was gone. The scar that remained was just another one for the team. He pulled his hair back into a ponytail at the nape of its neck, loosened the band away from his scalp a little. He retrieved his recently sharpened knife from the pile of clothes at his feet, and with his hair in his left hand, he sliced upward through the hair next to the band, letting the now free strands fall around his face. He tossed the severed length of hair in the bin and ran his hands through what was left. It looked a bit off, but he figured it'd do. It wasn't going to get him grabbed any time soon. He finished toweling off just as there was a knock on the door. "Ryan, are you done in there?" Jeremy's voice came through. "Just about." He pushed his hair back off his face, and it was still wet enough that it simply slicked back as if he'd never cut it. "Hey, are there clean clothes out there?" He probably should have checked that first. "Yeah," Jeremy replied. "Steffi's all over that stuff. Found some in the bedrooms. Should be something in there for you." "Great, because these need to be burned." Picking his dirty clothes off the floor and making sure the towel was secure around his waist, Ryan opened the door and sidestepped Jeremy as he pushed past him into the bathroom, a shower cap on his head. Ryan noticed, but it didn't really register as odd, and he went back to find some clean clothes. About 10 minutes later, he strolled back out to the living room, grabbing a Diet Coke from the fridge and flopping down on one of the large, unfortunately white couches that had come with the pre-furnished penthouse. He vaguely wondered how long the white would last. Michael looked up from the weapon he'd been strategically disassembling to clean and let out a hysterical giggle. "Ryan, what the fuck have you done to your hair?" Ryan instantly flushed red. "What? It's not that bad." I mean, it's functional. Oh man, no. No, it's bad. It's real bad. He was trying to hold back the laugh as he shot a look across the table at Gavin, who had an almost identical look on his face of barely contained laughter. Ryan looked abashed, but pretended not to care. It's fine. Michael finally exploded into giggles, Gavin following suit. Ryan, no. Hang on, let me find some scissors. I don't know if I can fix it, but I can at least try to make it look not like that. Ryan reluctantly agreed. Just as Michael returned with the scissors, Jeremy emerged from the bathroom, sporting a shock of fresh, fiery red hair. Flipping heck! Gavin blurted out. The bloody pair of you look like clowns. Hey, Ryan stifled a laugh. At least I'm not trying to make myself an easy target. Gavin snorted. Could you be any brighter, Jeremy? Dude, remember when it was green? Michael asked, still grinning. Gavin scoffed and rolled his eyes. Remember? How could I forget? Good. I'm going for memorable, Jeremy sniped. You don't get the luxury of forgetting the day you get your ass handed to you by Jeremy Dooley. Gavin and Michael exploded into giggles again. Ryan just smirked. Well, you nailed it, Lil J. Michael was just setting up behind Ryan, trying to work out the best way to attack the cubist art arrangement that was his current hairstyle, when Jeff walked in. His eyes ran from Ryan to Michael, and then to a still giggling Gavin and Jeremy, before he shook his head and turned around, leaving the room the same way he'd come in, without a word. One haircut and a moment of adjusting to Jeremy's new hairstyle later, Ryan ran his fingers through his newly short, much lighter hair, hardly any of the black dye remaining. He looked more like himself, more like the version of himself he wanted to be, than he had in a long time. Better? Michael asked. Much. Thanks, Michael. By that stage, most of the others had gathered in the main rooms around the kitchen, dining, and living areas that had become kind of an armory, everyone checking weapons before giving them over to Mika and Andy to run down to the garage. Where's Jeff? Gavin finally noted. Jack shrugged, stuffing a rag into the top of a glass bottle and placing it carefully in a box with several others. He was making calls. I think he was on the phone to Lindsay last I saw. Said they should be up soon. Andy and Mika each took a box of checked ammunition and pre-prepared Molotovs and headed back down to the garage. The sun had well and truly set, and glancing out the southeast floor-to-ceiling glass windows toward the FIB building, Ryan still couldn't believe the view. He could see the place buzzing with activity. Lights on, a stream of cars and vans and people arriving, dropping things off, giving directions to the lost-looking LSPD officers trying to help set up the perimeter outside. The remainder of the city was deathly quiet and in darkness. Even the International Affairs Agency building right across from them was almost still, with only a few lights on. Clearly not evacuated, but sensible enough not to get involved. And why would they? Ryan thought to himself. They hate the FIB's guts. Might as well give them enough rope. The north-facing windows looked out over Integrity Way, up towards the northern edge of the lockdown perimeter. News had started setting up for riot control. It really was the perfect vantage point to coordinate events from. Sometime between when Ryan had started staring out the windows, Jeff had silently made his way back to the main room. He walked over to where he was pacing near the couch. It seemed he'd already found the equivalent of his pacing spot from their previous penthouse headquarters. Jeff wore an expression of consternation, not just weighed down by the gravity of what they were about to attempt. Something else was clearly bothering him at a deeper level. The others hadn't seemed to notice yet. Jeff. Ryan started gently, quietly, so as to not alert the more rambunctious others. Are you okay? Jeff sighed. I'm a piece of shit. Well, yeah, what else is new? Ryan joked with a laugh. I'm fucking serious, Jeff snapped. It was loud enough that the others quieted down to listen in. Ryan's laughter stopped, his eyes narrowed. What is it? Look, Jeff started, loud enough for everyone to hear. I haven't been completely honest with you. That got everyone's attention. All eyes were immediately on him. How so, Jeff? Michael asked, dangerously serious. Jeff rubbed his face with both hands and pulled at his hair. I need you to know this going in, because I'm not going to ask any of you to fight for something you don't believe in, and I understand if none of you want to stay." "What are you saying, Jeff?" Jeremy asked. Ryan bit his tongue, feeling his stomach turn in anticipation. Jeff took a deep breath. "What I'm saying is that the fake AH crew was orchestrated from the beginning. We were hired to keep the balance in Los Santos." Jack looked confused. "What the fuck, Jeff? Hired by who? Why couldn't you tell us?" "It doesn't change anything I've done or said since. You guys are still my crew, and I care about you as much as if you were family. But I can't let you go into this with that on my chest. Not in good conscience, anyway." Ryan looked ready to take him apart. "All this time thinking you were the traitor, he just let you go on with it. It's Jeff. Don't act too hastily. He lied to us. There's an explanation. He lied to us." "There has to be... Jeff," Ryan began slowly, hands balling into fists at his side, knuckles going white, carefully avoiding touching his knife for fear he may not be able to resist the temptation of swift vengeance at his words. He swallowed thickly before going on. "Answer the question. Who were you hired by?" Jeff walked slowly around to the single-seat recliner and folded into it. The others moved closer, Jeremy, Michael, and Gavin sitting on the couch, while Jack and Ryan stood behind. Jeff cleared his throat. "Years ago, back before Bernie was mayor, we were friends. When he was seriously looking at getting into politics, I was testing the waters in less reputable areas. I'm sure you get the picture." He shook his head and moved on. "But he knew we needed to do something about the LSPD. They were being influenced by the FIB in one ear and IAA in the other, not to mention they were corrupt as fuck. Still are," Michael added. "We needed a way to keep them in check. So a few of us got together and started working on something. Joel Heyman, Gus Sorolla, and Matt Hullum were all in on it as well. We made a pact. We were going to have each other's backs in whatever venture we got into. So for Gus, that was internal affairs. Hullum obviously went on to take up Bernie's spot after his little stunt put a target on his back, and Joel did a lot of things, but he was always around when we needed him. When Bernie was mayor, he hired me to start the AH crew, and ultimately I reported to him." "Why couldn't you just tell us?" Gavin asked, sounding hurt. "It's not like we would have disagreed with any of that. Sounds pretty reasonable, actually." The others half nodded. It did make a lot of sense in a kind of convoluted, underhanded way. It still made Ryan feel dirty, like he'd been manipulated, even though he didn't disagree with their ideals or goals. He felt like a pawn, like the Randoms must feel. The idea that they could be so similar shook him to his core. "So why didn't you just tell us? None of us would have been bothered by that," Gavin reiterated. Jeff rubbed his face with both hands before letting out a long exhale and looking Ryan directly in the eyes. "Because of what could have happened to you if you knew." God damn it, Jeff. Ryan wanted to be mad. Knew he should be. That he had every right to be. He knew he could take this opportunity, walk away now. But he also knew he never would. It was his life for the crew. It was how it was always going to be. Ryan wondered if Jeff believed, truly believed, any of them would back out now. "Has it ever changed the way you did things? With us?" Jack asked cautiously, probing. "No. It might be like one day we thought we were going to be robbing a liquor store. Petty gang type shit. And the next thing I get a call from Bernie that a turf war is going to interrupt a drug bust that Gus and some good agents had been working on, and so maybe we happen to take our heist down there and break it up." Jeff grinned, clearly remembering a specific event that may have ended with Gavin desperately gripping the roof of their getaway car, squawking in terror as they sped away from the scene with nothing of value but plenty of great stories. "But I'd never let it get between us. I'd never let it do anything to risk the crew. Well, outside of what we normally do anyway. So I hope if any of you want out, this is your chance. I won't hold anything against you." They all looked around at each other. Everyone still looked determined. What about the family? Was that their idea or yours? Jeremy asked. No, it was mine. I'd been thinking about that for a while. I wanted more support from other crews. Bernie was supportive, but that was my idea. What about Gus? Michael asked. You said you thought he was dead. I did! Jeff burst out, eyes wide and grinning. Son of a bitch never gets in contact with me. And so everything with the randoms. Ryan finally calmed his nerves enough to speak. That's all because of this? No, Jeff asserted quickly. I don't think they know. I mean, they have personal issues with us, but face it, so's half the city. No, they think they're real original trying to get control of the gangs. But I feel like shit for not telling you. And I'm sorry you had to find out like this. I wanted to tell you, but I couldn't risk putting you or the crew in any more danger. And I'm sorry for tricking you into doing things you had no business getting involved in. And I promise I won't hold a grudge if you leave now. This political bullshit, it's not your fight. Again, they all exchanged glances. It's not about that. Not really, Jack said, full of patience and compassion that Ryan envied. And in a lot of ways, it never has been. It's about us. What's the real reason we're going after these assholes? Because you say so? Because someone else has told you to tell us to do it? You know that's not how it works, Jeff. Jeremy scoffed. Good luck telling these assholes what to do. He jerked a thumb at his own chest and gestured to the others with a grin. Besides, we've been through worse things, Michael noted. Well, almost. Ryan looked around at the others, all nodding together, determination in their eyes. So clearly, we're all staying. This is our fight. And we're going to fight. He smirked as Jeff's own words instinctively came back to him. Because we deserve to fucking win. Jeff breathed a sigh of relief as the others relaxed around him. I'm gonna be honest with you here, Jeff admitted with a grin. I did not see that going so well.